Breaking news today: Putin and Orban restate commitment to Russia-Hungary alliance amid global tensions. Even as international tensions rise over the war in Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin and his closest ally among European Union leaders, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, both reaffirmed their commitment to bilateral ties on Tuesday. Orban told Putin via an interpreter at a forum in Beijing that Hungary, which gets most of its crude oil and gas from Russia, has never wanted to oppose Russia and is trying to salvage bilateral contacts. This is despite the fact that Hungary has opposed many EU initiatives to support Ukraine in resisting Moscow's forces. Before the start of a global forum on China's Belt and Road Initiative, Putin and Xi met in the government guest house where Putin was staying, the source of great satisfaction that our relations with so many European countries are being maintained and developed, despite the fact that in the current geopolitical conditions, opportunities for doing so are extremely limited. Putin told Orban that Hungary was one of the countries in question. To open EU accession talks with Kyiv, which would require the support of all 27 members of the bloc, a decision is expected in December. Hungary, which cultivates closer ties with Russia than other EU states, is seen as the key potential opponent. Senior officials say that Brussels is considering unlocking billions of euros for Hungary due to rule of law concerns in an effort to win Budapest's approval for further aid to Ukraine, including the start of membership talks. Bertalan Havasi, Orban's press secretary, responded to Reuters via email, saying that he and Putin had discussed gas and oil shipments as well as nuclear energy issues. In 2014, the Russian energy behemoth Rosatom was awarded a contract to construct a nuclear power plant in Hungary without any sort of competitive bidding process. According to Havasi, Orban had insisted that it was in everyone's best interest for Europe to put an end to the sanctions against Russia, the fighting in Ukraine, and the influx of refugees. Whoever proposed the latest get-together was not named by him. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which it calls a special military operation, was discussed in Putin and Orban's last face-to-face meeting, which took place on February 1, 2022, in Moscow, and lasted for several hours. Reuters' Christina then in Budapest and Alexander Marrow and Kevin Liffey's writing contributed to this report. Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in China, the country's most important ally, for a trip that aims to strengthen ties between the two countries and commemorate their alliance against the West. But how solid are ties between the two nations? Thin gray line for presentations. Located on China's border with Russia is the small city of Heiha. Local sightseers cross the river to neighboring Blagoveshchensk, but they are few and far between. There is a tour boat idling in the water, playing upbeat Chinese music in an effort to attract customers, but it seems unlikely that the boat will move all day. Russian coast guards are taking advantage of the late summer weather by working out on their ship's deck. At the start of last year, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping announced a new no-limits partnership between their countries during Putin's visit to Beijing for the opening of the Winter Olympics. China's official media have been singing the praises of this relationship since Putin's return to Beijing. For one thing, it's helped both governments out. Images of their handshakes can reassure their own people that everything is normal when two such powerful friends are standing together, and they can reassure one another when they are isolated on the international stage. Despite political promises, economic activity along their borders has not materialized. Despite being heralded as the beginning of a new era of cross-border trade, the newly constructed bridge connecting Heiha and Blagoveshchensk rarely sees any traffic. Two large multi-story shopping centers in the city's core have closed due to low foot traffic, hiding behind the scattered groups of tourists taking pictures across the river. One closed a few months ago, and the other has reportedly been deserted for the past 7 years. Some of the former vendors are now operating out of the trunks of their cars parked in front of the first building, selling knickknacks and trinkets made in Russia. The economy is bad. One woman complains, there just aren't enough tourists. There hasn't been much time for the borders to be open after COVID. Not enough Russians are making the trip. They are poor and in a state of conflict. The other vendors nod in agreement as she makes this point. Close by, a woman in a tiny shop is peddling hats crafted in China out of Russian fur. She claims that they were once extremely well liked by both Russian and Chinese customers, but that recent years have been difficult for her company. You can't compare now to the past, she explains. Look around you in the streets. The cupboards are bare. There used to be a lot of interested buyers there.